vandalism, pure neglect. When you see the pictures, you'll see what I mean. Now, the sad thing is that Amherst is probably one of the most liberal places I know of. And to think that in the year 2020, the section of cemetery that you're buried in determines how you are treated even after death. The West Cemetery is located on Triangle Street in Amherst Center. It was founded in 1737 and is the resting place of many African Americans and Emily Dickinson and her family. Now, many Black Americans did join the Civil War in an effort to get their family and friends a free life. It was symbolic of the increasing inclusion of Blacks into society in Amherst. It was the first northern state to authorize the training of Black regiments for regular combat duty. The Black population of Massachusetts and Amherst, 1728 to 1870, Arthur James Avery Smith explains the impact of the Civil War on the African American community. The largest single impact the Civil War had on the Black community came from the military service from Black men from 1863 to 1865. They served on the 54th Voluntary Infantry Regiment and was the first all-Black infantry unit to become part of the Union. Colonel Robert Gould Shaw led the 54th Regiment, and the movie Glory depicts the creation and participation of the Fort Wagner assault in North Carolina. Not surprisingly, white bigamy permeated in the military ranks, and everybody was segregated. The accounts of Black Civil War veterans buried in West Cemetery reveal the difference between Blacks and whites did exist. Black soldiers were considered expendable, and accordingly, Africans were the first on the line of battle. The job assignment for Black military men also reflected the status in society. They were usually assigned to perform auxiliary tasks or fatigue positions, digging holes, uploading supplies, and building fortifications. The validity of whiteness ensured unfair treatment for Blacks in military and civilian settings. As much as this is true, it is also true that Blacks possessed agency and advocated for themselves. African Americans were not compliant with their subjugation, and he illustrates his point by saying they refused to take pay that was lower than any white soldier that were in the military. They fought in the battlefields and home front simultaneously. While fighting the Confederacy, American soldiers had to fight for full integration into a society that profited from their opposition. Both the occurrence of the Civil War and the segregated burial sites of Blacks in the West Cemetery reveal the complex negotiations and intersection of Black and white heritage. Now, like I said, Amherst is very liberal, so a surprise. In Western Massachusetts is evidence that at a time when Blacks resided in the Republic, they were made invisible. African American citizen was constantly negotiated in a manner contingent upon their subservience or inferior status compared to whites. The complete abolition of slavery by the 13th Amendment of 1865 guaranteed for the nation's former slaves freedom. While on paper they were free, freedom did not guarantee genuine citizenship. The newfound freedom of the formerly enslaved did not make them automatic recipients of the entitlement as citizens. And the elimination of slavery forced the American elite to grapple with the idea of actually realizing Black citizenship. The new republic denied Black people protection, which ultimately disenfranchised them. State repression positioned African Americans precariously between the boundaries of subjects and citizen. When it behoved wives to enable the Blacks, they did so. like in times of military or economic need. Town taxation policies are systematic of this conditional inclusion. In 1859, the Board of Assessors reported that there were 15 adult males not taxed and not supported by the town. The people not taxed appear to be black male head of households. In 1865, this taxation policy changed, and the respected teamster Henry Jackson was changed a poll tax and property tax. Conversely, back rights of inclusion within the nation were not wholly marketed because the true citizenship only belonged to the white male. Now remember, at this time, white women of white or black could not own property, could not vote, they had no rights. They were basically just enslaved as much as the black male. The heritage of Americans and African Americans in Amherst is an important story. Now, below they have a list of the different soldiers that are buried there. Like I said, I did my best to get pictures of the site, but it's badly in need of repair. Sanford Jackson of Amherst is the first one. He died in a hospital at Beaufort, South Carolina, September 13th, 1863, of a gunshot wound during the attack at Fort Wagner. He was married to Angeline Palmer Sanford and one of 3 sons born to Richard and Polly Jackson. He was in. Then we have Company C, Charles A. Fenimore. Fenimore enlisted in 1863. He resided with Christopher Thompson, the man that the father and the man that I just mentioned. He participated in battles of James Island, Fort Wagner, and Olustee. He was wounded February 24th during the Battle of Olustee, Florida, by Confederate sources. It resulted in the part from the time a common practice was to place the colored regiments as buffers between the main body of Union troops and oncoming Confederate forces were attacked that way. They were just put to be shot. He was discharged as a private. He is not photographed in Amherst at the gathering of the General Army of the Republic. Company D is John N. Langley. Langley was originally born in Rutland, Vermont. When he enlisted, he was new to the town of Amherst. He served as a private in the Union Army. Eventually, he was invalidated at Beaufort, South Carolina, due to a self-inflicted gunshot wound. That's sad. Jason Champlin from Shutesbury was an Amherst native and a farmer in Shutesbury. He was the oldest son of James and Catherine Verner Vernal Champlin and older brother Dennis Champlin, who was part of the 55th Massachusetts Infantry Regiment. In August 1863, he was enlisted in placement of Hiram Smith, who paid Jason $300 to do his service for him. He did this until he was killed in rearguard Battle of Olustee, Florida. 5th Massachusetts Cavalry Regiment was Jarvis Jackson. He was a teamster prior to the war, and he died at a hospital in Brazos, Texas, due to malaria. John B. Thompson of Amherst was born in Hatfield, and he was the brother of Henry Thompson. Before enlisting on December 12th, John worked as a farm laborer in Amherst. 3 months later, he died on March 12, 1864, at Fort Meigs in Reedsville, Mass. Injuries obtained in a fall that resulted in his death. That's kind of sad. They were very young. Company D, Arthur Jackson of Shutesbury. He was a farmer before enlisted, and he survived the war but died of typhoid fever. They tried to charge Shutesbury for the cost of Arthur's burial, but were unsuccessful. Henry Thompson was born in Pittsfield. He was the oldest of Stephen and Margaret Gray Thompson. He worked as a laborer for the L.M. Hill Company at Amherst. Before enlisting on January 4th, 1864, he was joined by his brother Christopher and received $125 bounty. While enlisted, he worked as a cook. He died at a hospital in Brazos, Texas on October 9, 1865 due to apoplexy. His death occurred just 22 days before the company's disbandment. Christopher Thompson was either born in Hatfield or Whately. He was the youngest brother of Christopher and a farm laborer. Before he enlisted on January 7th, 1864, he received a $125 bonus, and he was discharged in Clarksville, Texas. From Company B was Charles H. Thompson. He was the eldest son of Christopher Thompson and brother to Henry and Christopher. He worked as a farm laborer in Amherst. He enlisted with his father and brother on January 4th, 1864, and received a $125 bounty. He and his father were discharged at Clarksville, Texas. Then there is a Genalvin C. Morse. Morse is assumed to be black because his grave is located in the African American section of the West Cemetery. According to the 1895 Amherst Directory, he was employed as a janitor at Amherst College, Phi Society, a fraternity of the Boys of Chi, erected in the monument a loving tribute to a faithful servant. A GR marker at his grave indicates he was a Civil War veteran, and federal records take note of numerous black soldiers in the Massachusetts and elsewhere with nearly identical names. Further research is required on the subject. I hope you enjoyed this information.